Welcome to the Coach's Corner, part of the Iron Sharpening Iron universe. I'm your host, Davina Lyons, also known as Mama Lyons, and this is where real conversations meet real growth. Here we explore what it means to rise through reflection, resilience, and purpose. One story, one insight, one breakthrough at a time. Whether you're a coach, a leader, or simply on your own personal development journey, this is your space to reflect, identify, stand, and emerge stronger than before. So grab your notebook, take a deep breath, and let's rise together right here in the Coach's Corner. Welcome back to another episode of the Coach's Corner. I'm your host, Davina Lyons, aka Mama Lyons, and today we are diving into a compelling conversation. Our guest is someone whose story brings hope, strength, and undeniable resilience. Today we're joined by Nancy Glassgow, life coach, author, military veteran, and the heart behind No Fear Life. Nancy spent decades battling what she calls FADS, fear, anxiety, and depression, that came from stuffing her emotions. But on March 14, 2024, everything changed. She experienced complete healing, and her life's purpose shifted boldly and beautifully. Now, she's helping others find emotional and spiritual freedom, walk in their God-given power, and kick fear out of the driver's seat for good. I cannot wait for you to hear her story and feel the strength of her message. Welcome, Nancy.
Hi, Davina.
Welcome. How are you?
I am well, thank you.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be on this platform with you. We met years ago.
2018?
Yes,
Yes.
2018. And at that time, you were, on a quest to help people. And we had a wonderful time together putting on um, I would say a personal development, right?
Yes.
Workshop,
Yes.
day long,
Mm-hmm.
all about no fear, right?
Correct.
So I'm excited that you're still focused on that because it's very needed, very, very needed. So why don't you start by sharing a little bit about who you are and what led you into the world of coaching, especially in this area?
Well, Davina, that's a very interesting question for me. And, I was born into fear, and my story is one of fear through my whole life. And so, it's been over 60 years that I have dealt with fear. And I went into the retail world initially. I opened a business, and it was a small boutique and salon. And I had a love of clothing. And, I didn't really focus on much other than that. Well,
Mhm.
then I had dealt with the fear, anxiety, depression. And in 2017, well, we closed the business in probably about 2007. And I continued to work in the retail business. And I knew God had something more for me. And so therefore, I started listening to Lisa Nichols, who is a
Ah,
motivational speaker.
yeah.
And in 2018, the very beginning, she had a Motivating the Masses conference in California. And so I attended that, and it got me excited about helping others. and about what I could do to help others going through fear, even though at that point in time I had not conquered my fears. And so the Lord had really placed in my heart a desire to write a book. And that's was all about fear. And so that conference was all about that. And when I got out of that conference, I had the desire to help others. And that's when I met you and we connected and we did the conference. And so therefore it just everything kind of went in that direction. And I knew that I wanted to help others in this fear area because it had such a stronghold in my life all these years. And I gave my life to the Lord in when I was 30 years old, but yet I still struggled with this fear. And I knew as a Christian that wasn't what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to be living victorious.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore I just continued to work on myself in areas that needed to be worked on until I got the victory in that. And I know we'll go forth in that later in the discussion. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was just my own going through that helped me to see that I need to help others in this area and see that it was just a huge area of need. And I believe that God always uses you in the area that you have come through, and become victorious in. And
I would
so
agree.
therefore, that's where my heart was. And the Lord gave me a dream years ago, probably over 30 years ago, about, no fear life. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's where it has taken me. God has been with me through this whole thing, even though maybe I wasn't with him, he was with me.
Yes, yes, yes. You introduced me to something that I never quite put together this way, and that's that. That is that a thing, or is that something that you have really sort of coined the phrase of?
Well, this is very interesting. So last year, 2024, I gave my testimony. And at that time, I was going through all of the things that I went through in my life. And someone else came up with this. She said, it looks like you just continually just did this fear, anxiety, depression because of stuffing. And she goes, well, that's an acronym, Nancy. That's FADS. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. And so honestly, I did not come up with that. But I'm taking it as part of my story because it's exactly what I went through my whole entire life was just
Mhm.
constantly, fear would enter my life. I would then go into a cycle of anxiety and depression, and this could be for years. And then because I continually stuffed all those emotions deep inside of me, thinking this was wrong thinking that I would just, it would just go away. It would just go away if I didn't think about it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, we know that it just
Yeah,
erupts. It erupts.
yeah. The stuffing of emotions, that part. What
Yeah.
were some of the things that you what areas in your life do you think you stuffed the most? Like, what was it that really you were or is that just in general with you?
No, it's I never felt good enough, smart enough, pretty enough.
Mm.
I so all of those emotions, and because of that, I became very much a people pleaser my
Mm.
whole life. I had fear of man. Number one, beginning with my dad, I was
Mhm.
scared to death of my dad.
Mhm.
And so therefore, because I didn't think my dad loved me because I was afraid of him, I did all of these things to think that maybe he would love me. And
Mhm.
so that just carried forth in everything that I did. When I would work, all of my bosses, I would be, honestly, I would be scared of them. I would
Mhm.
be fearful of them, thinking, they're up here and I'm down here. And so the fear just escalated in me
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
I didn't deal with it. And because of
Mhm.
the shame and the denial of it and not opening up to it, it caused a lot of havoc in my life. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, and you say this is even when you were young, right? Like
Oh,
even
yes. Yes. I
as a
didn't
kid.
recognize it as I was young. I just thought I was just shy. I thought I
Right.
was shy and timid. And, but I remember those times when I would meet people, or maybe I would have, I would be looking at a boy and I'd like, oh, I really like them. But then the minute I would get an introduction to them, I wouldn't know what to say. I mean, I would
Mhm.
literally freeze and I
Mhm.
would get this sickness in my belly, this anxiety just rolling
Yeah.
inside of me. And
Yeah.
so it I remember that in actually in elementary school, I remember going
Mhm.
through that. And
Mhm.
I wore glasses then, and I remember them calling me Four Eyes and just being
Mm.
made fun of
Yeah.
in many
It's
different
yeah,
areas. And all of that just compounded again the anxiety
absolutely.
within inside me. Yes.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, some people act out, some people go within. And I know that as a teacher, I see it all the time in the classroom. And since I read your book, I especially pay attention to some of the young people, those that really kind of, it's as simple as I may be teaching a lesson where you need to stand up to present. I I've had some students that I can see it in their faces. They're about to melt down completely if I make them stand up. And I
Yes.
will just kind of casually, because it's a delicate balance as a teacher to walk that line of when it's appropriate to push and when it's not. You know what I mean? Like you
Right.
want to encourage, but
Right.
when I see, now I'm calling it fads, when I see that, I I back off a little bit. And I think that's part of the art of teaching, because I've seen some students, especially those that sit like, and if I'm right in the front and I can see their faces and no one else can,
Right.
it's like a whole thing comes over them. And
Yes.
they're just like, oh, and you
Yes. A
I
deer in
don't.
headlights, right?
Right,
Yep.
right.
Mhm.
And I've learned, I just easily say, you know what, you're good. Stay right where you are. Just go ahead and, respond, whatever.
Right.
Because it is not worth it to put that type of trauma on a child.
Right.
So I see it. Is that what kind of how it was for you too? Is that you didn't
It
want to be called out in school?
Well, yeah, I was just scared to death of anything, and until honestly, I was probably in my late 40s, early 50s when I went to Toastmasters.
Oh yeah.
I can
Yeah.
tell you Toastmasters was the beginning of a healing for me because
Mm.
it required me to get in front of an audience. It required me to then look back and examine some of the things that I went through for the speeches that I needed to give. And the
Mhm.
first one that you give is an icebreaker. And
Right.
that's just telling a little bit about yourself, right? And
Right.
so as I looked back, I mean, actually, when I was preparing for it, Davina,
Mhm.
I started crying because I realized how much I had stuffed inside of me. And so those tears then became healing tears to say, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's
Mhm.
okay to talk about these things.
Yeah.
It's all a part of healing where I was being lied to prior and saying,
Mhm.
oh, it's just better, Nancy, to not share. Nobody cares about what you're going
Mm.
through. And
Mm.
that was the lie that was told to me all of those years is nobody cares about what you're going through, Nancy. And I just want to say that that is the biggest lie there ever could be because that is farthest from the truth. And that's where others can step in and encourage you. And that's where, it just works both ways when you start sharing and being vulnerable with what's going on in your life. And
Mhm. Yeah,
vulnerability is where
that
it's at.
internal dialogue. Yeah,
Yes.
that's a lot. What we hear, what we tell ourselves has a great deal to do with how we live our lives, obviously. And if the message is, we all know, we always say the mindset is everything. Um,
Absolutely.
I can't imagine fear at that level. I probably was the opposite to a fault. I was out there and, but that was my
We're Mama
coping
Lions.
mechanism. Mama lion. Right. Yeah, I was always roaring. I'm still roaring. That's
Yes.
just how I am. But it's important for the listeners to understand, we're all different types of personalities, and it
Right.
takes all of us to make up the world. It takes the quiet, the shy, but in terms of fear, anxiety, depression, those are things that can be helped. Those are
Yes.
things you can be delivered from. And that's what you're proving.
Yes.
You don't have to live in fear. You don't have to live anxious. But yeah, so I'm curious. You are a military vet.
Yes.
Thank you for your service.
You're very
What
welcome.
what was that like with having this going on, these challenges of fear? What was that like serving?
Absolutely. So I kind of surprised myself when I went into the service because being this shy, quiet person, and then to go in to basic training on my own, I mean, that has to be pretty courageous, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so I did that. I made it through basic training and went through the schooling and then went to my base. And it was, I there then had to learn how, because they play, war games. And
Mhm.
so I was in the accounting department, but when I had to play the war games, I was a military police. And so,
Oh,
yes, so you're not in your regular duty if war is on. And
okay.
so when I was in, was peacetime, 1976. And
Mm.
so I had to learn how to shoot an M16. And, you know, I had to carry a gun. I was at the front gates letting people in. And so was that was very eye-opening to me to, that I was able to do that. It was hard. It was very hard. And but I didn't have a choice, you know.
Wow.
And so,
Mm.
and to me, let me clarify, the name of my business is No Fear Life, but that doesn't mean that you will not feel fear. It
Right.
means you will feel the fear, but you go through with it anyway. And that's the courage part of it. And so, as I look back on that, Davina, it encouraged me because it gave me a lot of strength to know that I did that. I did that at age 18, and
Wow.
yeah, and I was out at 21, and it was good, And then I married while I was in the service, and I I'm from South Dakota. Unfortunately, I got stationed right back in South Dakota. Yeah. I went to travel and see the world too, but that didn't
Right.
happen. So, but I married when I was
Yeah.
in the service, and that's how I got to Arizona. And so
Oh,
I went ahead of him and I lived with his parents, whom I did not know very well. So there again, I look at that and
courageous.
that was courageous,
Hmm.
even though I was very nervous and scared. They were Hispanic. They spoke Spanish. I didn't know, knew what I learned in school, and that was it. So I look back on those things and I think, Nancy, yes, you did do those things. And I didn't give myself credit for it until way later,
Hmm.
until I went through all those things and looked back at my life.
Right. Well, you were reassessing and you were looking at, I may have had this issue of experiencing fear, at the same time, you were also able to recognize all of the times where you were courageous
Right.
and made some bold moves in life.
Absolutely.
Um, and again, to the listeners, this isn't just about, because we are going to experience fear depending on what it is, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to be courageous or make good decisions. It may mean, however, that you delay some things in life, just because of
Absolutely.
the fact that you have that fear.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And we all, like you said, we all have things that we're afraid of. I mean,
Absolutely.
I'm going on a cruise for the first time in my life soon, and I have always been afraid of being on a cruise. I don't
But
know,
you're
but
doing
I'm
it.
now pushing. I've never been
Yes.
on one
Yes.
because I don't know. I'm just, I don't know. The movie Titanic, I don't know. I don't know what did it. Titanic was probably not a good thing to watch. But at the same time, there comes a time in your life when you realize that it's important to push past that fear. What
Yes.
was that like for you? When did you really realize that this is, and you've touched upon it a little bit, but be
Yes.
clear.
Yes.
How did
For me, really the first step, as I said, was the Toastmasters. That was
Mhm.
the breakthrough for me. Um, and then, just, well, I'll go back before that, Davina. Before that was me accepting the Lord Jesus Christ into my life at age
Mhm.
30. That was
Mm,
number
mhm,
one, because
mhm,
without him and making those surrendering um, times to him and giving it all to him, I would not be where I am today. So
mhm.
that is first and foremost. And not to say, all those years, I struggled. I struggled with it. I still went through those. And did the enemy try to beat me up with all of that, telling me, well, Nancy, you are a Christian, and look at your suffering with fear, anxiety, and depression. And I had to really work through that. And then going through the Toastmasters, and just all these little things, that it was like an onion being peeled away of these areas in my life that are never dealt with. I mean,
Mm,
from things in school, from, like I said, being called Four Eyes. And I had a very unusual last name. It was Weeby. And so the kids in middle school would call me Weebles, and they would say Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. That was, I'm dating myself here
no, I
because,
remember that too. You and I
yes,
are right there. Yeah,
yes.
that was like a favorite saying, right?
Yes. And so, for me, instead of taking that as something fun and playful, I took it as, they were making fun of me. And therefore, then I stuffed all those feelings deep down inside of me. And then when I married my second child, I lost that baby. And
Hmm,
I was 7 months pregnant. I stuffed those emotions. I didn't
absolutely.
deal with it. I didn't know how to deal with it. And
Mm,
I went through a divorce, and I had two children at that time. I then stuffed those emotions on top of it all. And so all of these, emotions just continually got stuffed deep down inside.
piling on.
Yes. And so that's why I say this cycle just of fear, anxiety, depression just kept circling around. And like I said, I talk about it in my book. It's like a washing machine that is in this spin cycle that
Mm,
just keeps spinning those clothes, and they get wrung out, but you're limp and lifeless by the time that gets there, and you're like, I just can't go on. And
mhm.
but you keep going on, but it just wears you down. And so it's a lie that I believed, and I think many other people believe too, that, and that's why hopelessness kind of comes in there too, because
Absolutely.
they're like, I don't have anybody to share with because I don't think anybody wants to hear this. And so therefore, I'm just feeling alone, very alone. And I felt alone at one point, Davina, that I thought of taking my own life. That's how
Mm,
far it went. And
mm.
I didn't take action on it, but I had the thought.
Thank God.
And, unfortunately today there's too many that have the thought and have followed through with that thought. And so, I want to be a part of stopping that cycle.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. There's no doubt there's such a need for it. I didn't realize until recently. I used to always tell people I don't get depressed. I'm not depressed. I deal with things as they come to me, blah blah blah. And that was just like walk 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 because I realized that no, you get depressed. It just shows up differently.
Right.
It shows up in different ways, and our behaviors, our withdrawal sometimes. Now I know when I'm feeling depressed, I don't want to do anything. I
Mm,
don't want to. I'm a very, very actively busy person with a lot of irons in the fire. Everyone that knows me knows that.
mm-hmm.
But when I pull back from that, that's when you need to check on me.
Right.
Because I will shut down, and that's a day in bed. You
Yes.
know,
Now
it shows up different,
yes, it
right?
does. So, just to give you an example for myself, I mean, I would continue on with all my daily duties, all the things that I've committed to, and I would put on a mask. And so,
Mm,
therefore, nobody knew that I was going through depression. In fact, when people that have known me for any length of time, when they found out that I suffered with anxiety, fear, and depression, they're like, "What? I would have never have known that you dealt with that." So
yeah,
therefore,
I can see that. I can see that
and
because
that
I
matters.
was the first time you told me, I was shocked.
Yeah,
We had just finished when you had, if you don't mind me sharing,
I
you
do
had
not.
that episode
Right?
after our day long workshop, and I knew you talked about fear and you had explained your story, but actually seeing you go through it, you withdrew for a bit, you know,
Right.
and I was really surprised.
Yes.
Um, I I love that you say your title of your book is How to Kick Fear in the Ass and Look Sassy Doing It.
Yes.
What inspired that title?
Well, I went to the Motivating the Masses and they talked about writing your own book. And so I came up with this title when I was there because of my struggle with fear and then my love for fashion. And I'm like, okay, how could I put these two together? And I came up with
Mm,
that title. And then I started talking to other people there at the conference about it. And they're like, oh my gosh, yes, I love that title
mhm,
because it makes me want to know more.
mhm,
And so therefore it was born in 2018. And I honestly started writing the book in 2018. And then
wow.
when I went through that cycle of fear, anxiety, and depression after the conference,
Mhm,
it went on hiatus for until 2024. So
I
for
see.
6 years, I mean, I wrote 10 chapters of my book, and then 6 years it sat there. And then in the beginning of 2024, God just said, you need to finish this book. It's important. So many people are suffering with fear, and you need to get this
Yes.
out there. So
Yes.
then, and I knew the reason was the rest of my story. I had to have victory in overcoming my fear, anxiety, and depression.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
so I was involved in a Bible study that I facilitated, and we
mhm,
started it up in 2018. And one of the ladies, we were on a little bit of a break, and she said, I would like to have everybody over for lunch, and I would like to pray. And so we all went over, had our lunch, and we prayed. Well, when I was prayed for, they asked me what I wanted to be prayed over. And I said, oh, my grandchildren, I want my grandchildren to all know the Lord. It was about
Mm-hmm.
them. And then when they started praying, my mind went to, oh my goodness, I need to pray for this spirit of fear to go. And I didn't say a word, but the Kathy, one of the ladies, it was her house, she started praying and she started telling that spirit of fear to go. I did not say a word. And
Wow.
all of a sudden, I thought someone was holding my right hand.
Mm.
Yes. And it got super warm. And I thought, I've got to open my eyes and see who's holding my hand. And I looked over at my right hand. Nobody was holding my hand. I
Mm.
knew it was the power of Jesus. He was holding my hand, and I
Mm-hmm.
have been healed completely, 100% of fear,
Mm.
anxiety, and depression. Now, that was March 14th, 2024.
That's when it happened.
And
Mm.
that's when it happened. And I know because the minute I went up to speak, normally I would be like, just shaking, from having to deal with speaking in front of someone. Now I do have an
Mm-hmm.
existential tremor, so sometimes that shows up, but yeah, it wasn't there. I gave my testimony, and it was amazing to see. That was 4 months later, I gave my testimony, and then I've spoke at various other events and retreats, and I just know God is using me at this point, and that
Absolutely.
yes, and
Absolutely.
He has completely healed me, and I mean, I'm so excited for what He's done in my life and what He's going to continue to do, and how He's going to use. He gave me the idea. He's the one that will bless it and move it forward. So I trust in
Yeah.
Him.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're walking it out. You
Yes,
know, I often tell you, you are one of the most amazing project people I know. And when it comes to any event, organization, anything, I've worked with you more than once. Most recently,
yes,
some of our listeners might know that you and I are in the Authors Alliance, promoting our books and book
yes,
signing. And we had our first event, which was amazing. Again,
yes.
you organized it very well. That's
Thank
something
you.
that you're amazing when it comes to here's what we have to do, here's the timeline, make sure the details are there, and you do it with expertise. I mean, I'm missing the word I'm trying to find right now, but it's just excellence. That's it.
Oh,
Excellence. You
thank
do
you.
everything with excellence and quality, which is why whenever you call me, I show up because I know, Nancy, you're going to do an amazing job. But
Thank you.
with everything that you have experienced in your life, you've learned to use it for good, right? And you're one of the signature scriptures, 2 Timothy 1:7, that
Yes,
you mentioned.
yes.
How does that scripture anchor your message and your mission?
Yes. Well, it says, God does not give me a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. And it's only through God that any of this can happen. That
Mhm.
once I completely surrendered it all to God, he just took it from me. And
Mhm.
not to say that you don't have to take a step of faith and do what you need to do in order to get your healing. We just can't expect God to come in and to take it over. Not that he doesn't do that, but most of the time he requires us to do our part. I had to renew my mind.
Mhm.
Our mind is very powerful, and my mind was not doing me any favors. And so
Mhm.
therefore I had to work on my mind and change that pathway in my mind because it was set on fear, anxiety, and depression. And
Absolutely.
so I had to replace it with God's word and what God said about me. And I had to then get it from my head into my heart. And
Mhm.
one of the things that I remember often that people would always say to me is, Nancy, God loves you. And I would kind of get a little bit frustrated. I'd be like,
Mm.
I know God loves me. I know that. Why do you keep telling me this? Well,
Mhm.
the reason it was being told to me is because I only had it in my head. It did not sink down into my heart. And once it
Mm.
did, and that's with anything, we all can have that knowledge in our head, but it has to sink into our heart in order for it to really manifest in our lives. And
Mhm.
so,
Absolutely.
yes, it's just truth. It has to manifest in our lives. And so therefore, I mean, it's something I would always, whenever I was going through a episode of, fear spin cycle, I would always say that scripture. Help me get grounded, help me to get back into the word instead of focusing on what I was going through. And that's what you tend to do. You tend to focus on your feelings, and we can't go by our feelings because, it's fear. What do they call fear? False evidence appearing real. Um,
Yes.
it
Mhm.
is, it's false evidence coming into your mind. It's not truth. And you have to replace the truth, the lies
Absolutely.
with the truth. And so, Brené Brown's book, that makes me think of her, that we have to speak the things that are true about ourselves. And,
Right.
um, and, we have to ask ourselves questions. Is that really true? What you're saying about yourself, is that really true?
Right.
And you have to say, and then if you think it is true, how do you know that that's true?
Right. Right.
We have to
Yeah.
ask ourselves these questions because we like to believe the lies about ourselves. And that's what I did. I believed the lies and I
For
bought
sure.
into those lies over and over
Mhm.
and over again.
Mhm.
And, I know the truth of who I am. I am a child of God. I'm
Mhm.
loved, accepted, just who I am. God knew what I was going to go through before I even went through it. And
Mhm.
he loved me as I went through it.
Mhm.
And he
Mhm.
says, I'm going to
Absolutely.
use it. I'm going to use it, you know,
Absolutely.
for
And
me.
and there are things that you're saying that for those who are listening who may not be on that same um, walk or path,
Right.
religious or have the same spiritual belief
Believe.
system as you do, but I think that there are a lot of things that you were saying that still ring true. The mindset and the belief, but
Absolutely.
you have to have hope. Now, your hope and trust is in God.
Right.
There are people out there who, and I want to highlight this because I I'm always wanting to be inclusive in terms of we're all on different walks in life. And while I love and respect exactly where you're coming from and where it is that you found your healing, there are people who might hear you and say, but I don't get that, or they're not there yet. They don't
Right.
get it. They don't have that relationship. Or maybe their relationship is with someone else. And this isn't about, who's right or who's wrong. But at the same time, I think that they have to understand hope is key. Grounding yourself and really believing in something bigger than you to get you through is very, very important. You know, part of the reason why sometimes when people suffer from depression or anxiety, it is believing the lies. Well, how do you dispel the lies? How do
Right.
you get, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
You found the way, the walk, the way, the truth from your perspective for sure. But I just want everyone to listening to figure what that is, figure out what it is, and then allow it to help transform them because I think people give up sometimes when they're hopeless, and hope is very important.
Yes, it is.
And and so I'm really um, I'm happy that you're doing the work you're doing. I
Yes.
think that the work that you're doing is just so needed right now. We are in a society of a lot of anxiety and depression. And in the classroom, I see how early it
Mhm.
starts.
Yes.
It starts very early.
Yes.
Even elementary school kids are
Yes.
full of fear and anxiety.
Yes.
So, I know you're going to continue with your book. Are you doing workshops, or what's the future look like for Nancy?
Well, the future for me, I am out there. I'm giving of my time. I am mentoring others, and I'm not really. I can't say that I'm charging for my services at this time. I'm really just,
Yeah.
giving to those who are need it. And
Mhm.
I do go to Casa Grande, to the Home of Hope there, and I
Okay.
do minister as part of Teen Challenge, those
Nice.
that are addicted or abused, or so I do help coach those ladies there. and
Nice.
and through my church I coach and I mentor women there. And so, but I am available to do the other as well.
Mhm.
It's just I'm spending my time just giving back to the community.
Mhm.
And I am available for speaking. I mean, I have spoke at other events. I
Mhm.
have not, like I said, I'm just giving back at this time, Davina. I
Good.
feel that that's what I want to do. And as far as the Authors Alliance, I want to move forward a little bit, quarterly with that. And
Okay.
that's kind of where it looks like my life going at this point.
Mhm.
And
Which is
it's
great. It's a
that.
lot.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Doing-
It keeps me busy. I mean, I
Right.
I am
Right.
retired, but I'm not really retired. I think I'm busier now than when I was working. So,
Right.
and it's good and I love it. And I love being able to give back. And,
Yeah.
I say for anybody that is dealing with fear, anxiety, and depression, do not do not keep it inside of you.
Right.
Do not do that.
Right.
Share it with someone that you know that you can trust, that will listen to you and give you good feedback. If you need someone to talk to, I am available. I just want to put that out there. I am
Mhm.
available. You can reach me by email, phone. I'm available to talk. And I just don't want anybody to be what I was, and that's just holding it all in. And because there's nothing worse than to hold that all in and think that you're the only one going through that, because that is the farthest from the truth. You
Your
know,
email address. Let me capture your email address real quick, because if someone wants to write to you
yes,
about their depression, you're open to that,
yes, I
right?
am. Absolutely.
Absolutely. What's your
Yes.
email address?
It's no
No.
fear Nancy@gmail.com.
Okay. No fear Nancy at gmail.com. I'm posting that right now. Um, and okay, there it is. Because I think that it's just so important. Oh, yep, there's everybody's posting it for me. I love it. Just
Well, thank
speak and
you.
it happens.
I may have
I,
1,000 emails now.
my, I love my team behind the scenes.
That's
No
awesome.
fear Nancy came like 3 times. That's good. It's good. That's
That's
right. I
awesome.
am not alone. I love
That's
it.
right. Yes.
Um, yeah, so I love that you're open to that. In our show, in the Iron Sharpening Iron universe, we have several different shows, and we post our emails, and we get letters from people wanting us to go over these topics. So I am going to either, if I get one or if you do, if you want to come back on the show and
Yes.
we can address some of the things, if you hear from people, let
Yeah,
us know. I mean, I
I
would love
will.
to have you back doing
Absolutely.
that because
Absolutely. I would love to come back and share some testimonies. Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
There's nothing that we go through that somebody else couldn't benefit from learning from. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
I used to think, oh man, I'm going through this, woe is me. And I started realizing that no, 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 no. There's always someone else that maybe can even top my situation. And I'm open to, making sure that I share what I can to help someone else. So
So
that's
true.
definitely good. How do
Yes.
we get your book? How do we get your, I have a copy, signed copy. I'm so
Yes.
grateful. But how
Yes.
does everyone get your book?
You can go to nofearlife.store and get your book.
Okay.
They're
Okay.
$15 and they'll be sent right to you.
Okay, great. Nofearlife.store.
Yes.
Excellent. And then we have your email posted. And and like you said, we're going to be doing the Authors Alliance probably quarterly. We have
Yes.
some other great authors that join us. That was fun. Um, I think that any way in which you can get the message out there, people need it so much, Nancy. So I
Yes.
am so grateful that you've dedicated and made it your purpose to help other people who may be experiencing fear, anxiety, and depression.
Yes.
Um, as a life coach, I know, there are people who maybe they've kind of figured it out. They just don't quite know how to move forward and
Hmm.
how to use what they've experienced. I think you'd be very helpful for that as well. Are you open to uh, one-to-one client coaching now, or are you just doing
Absolutely.
more group?
Nope.
Okay,
Nope. I do one to one. Yep.
okay,
Yep.
excellent,
Yep.
excellent,
Absolutely.
good.
That's actually what I do at the Home of Hope and through my mentoring. Yes.
Okay,
Yes. And
fantastic.
of course, I am always open to speak at an event.
Mhm.
So if anybody is in need of that and would like me to speak on fear, I would love to be able to do that. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes. So please, I hope that everyone that listened is, if you know someone, please share this message. It's fear is crippling.
It
And
is.
for some, it takes them so far off of their trajectory in life that they don't accomplish what they're meant to accomplish. So, fear and having faith and turning around, changing your mindset, this is all good stuff, Nancy. It's all good stuff.
Yes, it
So,
is.
I
It's all
really,
good stuff.
really, yeah, love it, appreciate it. What else? Is there any parting words, anything you want to say to the listeners? Because this will be out there forever.
Yes.
Um, about
Yes. Well, a couple of things. I think number one, when it comes to your fear, your anxiety, your depression, don't stuff it. Examine yourself in that. Get curious about it. I think that was probably one of the biggest things that I had an issue with. I didn't want to deal with it. So take some time and examine, exactly where is that fear coming from? Where is that anxiety coming from? There is a root cause of it. And so if we can, I think journaling is one of the best things, one of the best tools. It helps you to remember, and it helps you to go back and to see how far you've come. And so that would be the first thing. And then also um, to speak out. That was the other big thing for me is I kept silent.
Mhm.
And so I say, one of my tools is, get a megaphone and speak out about what is going on in your life. Don't keep it to yourself, because we
Mhm.
all, as she said, iron sharpens iron, and we all help each other out. We all need each other. You
Mhm.
are never alone. Whatever
Mhm.
you're going through, it can be worked along with others. And for me, that is with God in the center of it all, because
Mhm.
he is my healer. And
Mhm.
so therefore, you're never alone. Never. Just know
Mhm.
that. There are so many people going through this. I mean, it's called pretty much the United States of anxiety, right? There's
Mhm. Yeah,
many
sad but
people.
true.
Yes, there's so many
Yeah.
people dealing with anxiety today. I mean, I wrote the book for my family because most of my grandkids have anxiety and crippling
Mm.
anxiety. And so my
Mhm.
prayer is that they overcome and they leave a legacy behind that they don't pass on to their children, that
Mm.
that it will stop, that this will stop. There's draw
Mhm.
a line in the sand and this
Mhm.
stop, because we need to. It's just epidemic. It's epidemic,
It
and
really is.
it is, and
Mhm.
it becomes overwhelming even to hear about all of that anxiety coming in. And so, that is and was my goal in writing the book, is to help my grandkids and my kids, and to help others, so we can stomp this out, to stop it, to say enough is enough. I'm not going to put up with this anymore. This is not the life that I want to live. I want to live
Yeah.
a life in peace.
As you were talking, it made me think about you and I come from a different era.
Yes.
We didn't have the technology and all that stuff
Right.
that our young people have today. The rate and the amount of information that hits
Absolutely.
us
Hmm.
has to contribute to it, because I had to tell myself when I wake up in the morning to stop looking at my cell phone at the rate that I was, because the first the news, the
Yes.
notifications, just one thing after the other, death or this or that, and it was really kind of freaking me out. Like,
Yes.
wow, like you can't. So I imagine with all of the people who stay on their media, on
Yes.
their technology, it it just really more. I think it contributes even more to
It
what you're
does.
talking about.
Well,
It
it
has.
is proven. It is proven that it does, that our start being on the social media or whatever we're on, reading the news, whatever, it causes that anxiety. And I would like to challenge all of your listeners to take a 30-day break from that
Mm,
and
mhm,
watch how, like, lots of you are out there right before you go to bed and you're
mhm,
looking at your social media. I
mhm.
want to challenge you to stop that for 30 days and start looking at how you're feeling, because
Yeah.
where does all the comparison come in? We're looking at our social media and we're saying, well, look at what they're doing, or look at what they have, or look at how they look. And all this comparison, and it draws us to this lonely feeling. And
Mhm,
none of that is good for our
mhm,
souls. And
mhm,
so I would challenge
mhm.
for 1 month.
Yeah, and I like that challenge. I understand that now, because I used to laugh when I would hear someone say that on social media. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're on social media right now saying that. But but no, listen, I get it. So here's what I figured out is that have some structure to using it. Have some
Yes.
structure, like you said, right before bed or first thing in the morning when you wake up. Not a good idea,
No.
because the last thing you put in your mind before you sleep, the first thing you see when you open
Yes.
your eyes in the morning. So instead, have some carved out time. They even have apps now that will help you control that. Shut your phone down by a certain time.
Yes.
Or they also, like on the iPhone, I noticed that it tells you you're spending this much time on your screen time. So
Right.
all of these different things are designed to help people manage. It's not that social media is bad, it's not that
No.
anything's bad, and
Right.
and I get what you're saying, but
Yes.
in set a goal in
Right.
30 days
Yes.
to monitor and manage that, so that you're not like affecting your mind to the point where it's taking away from the quality of your life.
Right. So we
Mhm.
don't know how to have quiet time anymore
Right.
because our minds are constantly going 150 miles an hour. And so and that's why we're not sleeping like we should. So if we can slow down before we go to bed, I'm not saying don't look at, so there, I look at social media, I listen to all kinds of podcasts, all kinds of things, but
Yeah.
I'm not on it before I go to bed, or I
Right.
don't look at it when it comes to social media. It might be my devotion time or whatever, but
Right.
it let's look at what we're looking at and when we're looking at it. And
Right. Right.
that will make,
Absolutely.
I can, that's why I
It'll
say
make a
it's
difference.
a challenge, because it will make a difference in your life.
Yeah.
And
No, I totally agree with you. I'm working on that. I really am, because I am one of those people that's always using my. But the other thing, honestly, we've lived through uh, pre beeper to
right.
beeper that just
We didn't have
you could
cell
only put a
phones.
few things. Then it went to where you could type messages. Then it went to cell phones, and then and we've gone through all these things. The progression to me, though, if you think about, our cell phones are not just phones now; they're just tiny
Oh,
little
there are
computers in our hands. They
yes,
everything is on them.
right.
I can do everything on my iPhone that I can do on the computer, right?
Absolutely.
So, my goodness, you are so overstimulated by this
Absolutely.
device.
Right.
That's part of it. And and
Yes.
and you we have to have you back, Nancy, because I want to talk about you said something that is another whole show, but comparisons,
Oh,
social
yes,
media comparisons, and how that creates anxiety.
it does.
Um, I even doing this podcast, I was like worried about, oh, should I do hair, makeup and blah blah blah. And I'm like, no, no. All you listeners out there, I don't like makeup, so I don't put all that on. But for those of you who do, good for you.
Yes.
I had to be okay with me. And that's tough,
You
because
had to be that authentic you.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, and here's my thing about that is, if you're worried about how I look and you're not listening, you're not paying attention to what's being said.
Right.
You're focused on the wrong thing.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. But honestly, for years I delayed in doing things like this because I was worried about that.
I hear
So
you.
yeah, it's
Totally.
it's crazy.
Totally relate to that. Yes.
You get older and then you don't care. It's like, I don't care. What you got? I don't care.
Is that when maturity happens? What happens when you get mature, huh?
You get to a certain stage, you're like, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm
It's
doing me, and
freeing.
I'm happy about that.
Yeah, it's freeing, Davina. It's very freeing.
Absolutely. Absolutely it
Yes.
is.
Yes.
Nancy, I adore you. Thank
I
you
adore
so
you.
much for taking time on your Sunday. I
Thank
know
you for
Sunday's a
having
precious
me.
day for you. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank
We're going to have you back. In fact, we have other shows. I would love to see you on the Ladies Diary. Have to have you as a guest on the Ladies Diary. I'll be talking to you about that. So
you.
put a
Okay.
pin in that,
All
because
right.
we do that monthly, and the first Wednesday of the month. And the
Okay.
Ladies Diary is there's and I don't want to mess this up. I think there's a total of 5 of us on the screen,
Okay.
and myself and my co-host, Boss B. She's a producer with this show, amazing lady. I can't wait to introduce you to. But yeah, be
All
prepared
right.
to come back. In fact, hang
Well,
around. Don't go anywhere. We're gonna have to say ciao to our listeners. However, I want you to stay back, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about
all
that. But
right.
thank you again, Nancy, for all of those who support Nancy, because I know you guys show up. You showed up at the book signing. All of Nancy's supporters, thank you so much. Like, share, get her message out there. Get my message. Get our message out there.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
All
Absolutely.
right. All
Yes.
right. I'm gonna say thank you all for listening, and Nancy, hang
I
in
will
there.
stay on.
All
Okay.
right.